Amazing, so you wanted to make sure that you were accurate, you weren't making it bigger or less than what it really is. Excellent.
I think as moms, we are so busy doing and making sure everything's okay, and, you know, it's hard to then say about ourselves, yeah, it's, you know, we're good at doing it to our kids and bringing their gifts out, but when it comes to expressing our own, we're like, not good at it.
So I think of that as, we're good at being human doers, but not necessarily human beings. So being quiet enough to be able to listen to what we're called to do with our gifts and talents.
You can't do your way into heaven. Gotta be your way into
I
heaven.
said that on EWTN yesterday. I was like, really? No.
Darn it, I have a place.
That's right. Carving out my spot. Darn. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
I'll just say, my problem is, I don't have a filter. So,
So it's comfortable for you.
yeah, I mean, if people talk to me, I don't have a problem saying, you know what your problem is? No, or you should do this, did you ever try this? You know, I tend to be kind of the opposite.
So you may be more extroverted. Maybe what I'm hearing from a couple of these ladies over here, that maybe they're more introverted, right? Because extroverts recharge by being with people, introverts recharge by being alone. So you must get some energy from it.
And I just got back from a conference, so I'm still kind of like on the high. So I apologize.
Still on the mountain.
So when any of you were, if you were uncomfortable sharing, did you seem like did you hear, what some of the other people said was too much? Maybe it was inaccurate?
No.
It seemed legitimate, it seemed too healthy, okay? So what if what they heard from you was the same? Healthy, legitimate, accurate, normal. It'd be interesting, I'm not gonna do this, but it would be interesting to go around the room and have people say what they think about you.
I want to share a story.
Okay, you share.
At our conference, that's what Vina and I went to an IRP training last weekend. And so we did, we wanted to do a joy circle at the end. It was supposed to be 20 minutes, and that's what we did, where we had somebody stand in the middle and tell what they liked about that person. It took an hour and a half.
That's so amazing.
Because we didn't want to leave,
Right.
and none of us were upset, because it was so powerful. It was.
It's great to soak that in. Yeah, I have a story with it too. I'll share that for another time. But yeah. So it's not bragging. It's being real. It's being authentic. It's really just being who you are. And that's, go ahead.
I belong to a community that's called Couples for Christ. So one thing that we have is whoever's birthday is, we all gather at the end of the meeting or gathering, and then we honor that person. And it's funny to see husband and wife, and we have to emphasize only positive, please. And for some people, it's so hard to find those positive things for the person. So it's in a way, it's a good practice to not paying attention so much to the negative, but to the positive. And it's amazing, like when it was my turn, to hear all what they were saying about me. I didn't even know I realized that I have done such things. So it makes you feel like, wow, that's how people see me, that's how I project myself without even realizing.
Yeah, we make a big impact on the world without even unawareness. And so you made me think of, I was sitting at Holy Trinity's parking lot. I was their pastoral counselor for several years. And so people could come to counseling and it was free to them. And so I needed to get outside. So I was sitting in my car eating lunch, and there's duplexes next door to the part where I was parked. And this lady was stomping across from her duplex to the dumpster, back and forth, back. And I just watched, and in my head, it's always in my head is I wonder what her story is. And so I conjure up a story, right? And at one point she saw me sitting there, and she stopped and she looked at me, and I just smiled, because that's what I do. I smile at people when they look at me. She stomped off. A couple weeks later, same thing, I'm out of my car eating lunch in the sun, and she was walking back and forth, but not as animated as she was the first time. She ended up coming up to my car and she said, were you sitting here a couple of weeks ago, and did you smile at me? And I said, yes. And she said, that was one of the worst days of my life. My boyfriend broke up with me, I was about to be evicted, and I was struggling. And she said, your smile was the nicest thing that had happened to me in a long time. And I was like, oh.
Right.
So I started
Just fell
crying.
down.
Right, all I did was smile. So keep that in mind, that you don't know how people are receiving you, the yucky way and the positive way. So what do you want to give to people? And it doesn't have to be a huge gift, it's just a gift of your soul, right? Just give them a little bit of you. And that's what is important to take into these homes, because they're afraid for you to come in, just like you're a little you have some trepidations about going into their home, because it's different going into somebody else's home. You're talking about, the man back there who's videotaping us, was talking about doing Meals on Wheels, and when you go in, like how do you greet them, and what do you say? It is a little unnerving in the beginning to be going into a stranger's home. And it's more uncomfortable for them to have you coming into their home, because they don't know what you're looking for, what you're looking at, or what your motives really are. So keep that in mind. I need to move forward. I'm using all this awesome time on this. So how do you think your strengths are going to support this population that you're going to be seeing? We talked about your amazingness. How do you think your amazing qualities are going to help?
Just one smile at a time,
One smile at a time.
just in the ordinariness of their life. You're just gonna be with them, meet them where they're at, and just walk with them on their journey, one step at a time.
So you're being open, maybe vulnerable, to listen to where they are, non-judging.
I think we'll give them an opportunity to speak about something that they normally don't speak about. You know, their own faith. So often the people we live with, maybe we don't verbalize what is deep within us, and it's just an invitation to do that. And to see their children perhaps in a little different light in terms of their relationship with God.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, you know, because our focus is gonna be the child. And, you know, I'm kind of looking forward to that, because it's really the child is the tool. And so, you know, by establishing that relationship, everybody loves the child. And so, you know, I can just see how that would, you know, work through the child to the parents. So I think that's for me the most exciting thing.
I think that's exactly how it works. You work through the child. You do have to establish safety and the respect with the parent, because they're the ones that puts you on the calendar and invites you back. But it is the child where all the work happens.
I think building a relationship with the child, and like you said, with the parent, because sometimes you get along with the kid, you may not get along with the parents, or they don't see what you teaching is right, you know what I'm saying? So in order to do that open door policy where you let me know how you feel, or what do you want me to teach, you know, give them an opportunity to let us know, hey, I'm looking for this, or this, can you help us, help me with that, you know? You understand?
Right, so you're being collaborative with the parent, absolutely. Any other thoughts about that? So, I've already started to talk about some of this, but the second thing I was really gonna talk about is the experience that we create. You know, when we go into their home, we're creating an experience. When we leave their home, we're leaving them with the experience that we just spent your visits are an hour, right? I guess I should know that, but, okay. So you're leaving them with an experience that you, yeah. We're leaving them with an experience, so like, this is interesting, so like even what kind of attire, what kind of dress would you, what would your clothing look like? Like I would suggest don't dress like I'm dressed today. It's really hard to get down on the floor when you're wearing a skirt and be, you know, appropriate with that. But when I worked at Ledoux and when I worked at Rittner, I did dress a little bit differently. I tended to wear more khakis when I was at Ledoux, and I wore more jeans actually, or khakis, and like a nicer work, like dressed down kind of tops at both places actually. Because I didn't want to overdress in areas that would be disrespectful, but I didn't want to underdress in areas that would be disrespectful. So that's something really to keep in mind.
I think it's a balance, you know, when you first meet the family, you see their environment, how they are,
Mhm.
So cause I know, like when I do a home visit, I never wanna make them like I'm better than them,
Mhm.
you know, cause we tend to not, look at their value, how they're living, because we have homes like bugs everywhere, roaches, but it's not that how they wanna live, but
Glad you said that because that's how I've experienced a lot of it
yeah,
myself.
and place things, smell, but you don't wanna wear good clothes in their home, I experienced that, but I feel like in order for me to understand, I have, I don't know, like, Mrs. Jones is gonna be dressed because I never met Mrs. Jones. So when I meet her and knows the environment, then next visit I know how to dress and how to,
So what do you do when you go in and there's all roaches and bugs everywhere? Do you say, let's go outside?
No, you sit like this. If this is the couch, you sit here. You sit on the floor, you put your folder under your bottom.
Do you spray yourself before you go in?
Or as I model, put carry with you a blanket
Uh-huh.
and put it on, because that's what
I
I
have a-
used to do when I was a parent educator, always got a blanket.
You have a cloth. It looks like
Okay.
a restaurant round table. I don't know where I got it from. Probably from
Mhm.
Urban or some tablecloth. And I would sit on that.
Okay.
And it became my like space.
Have a
You know,
blanket
kids have their little
player.
mats.
Yeah.
That was my space, and so the toys would be there, and
Okay.
then
I mean, because I walk into houses like this all the time in my business, but I'm not sitting down anywhere,
right,
you know?
right.
I spray myself when I get out, so.
Well, in almost 20 years, I never brought home anything.
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, because that's what I was concerned about.
Yeah.
In your bags. So I'm gonna carry the bag,
Right,
the big bag.
right. Or sometimes the house that I'm thinking of the worst, like the ceilings were falling through,
Mhm.
water
Um,
damage,
pardon, water damage.
smelly, mold.
Mhm. So I would just take in what I needed, my folder, and I would even carry a bag. I would just carry in the toy and the blanket thingy, and they don't know that I'm doing things differently for
Right.
them, or.
Right.
And then like this family, the kids would play with the bugs, and they didn't have a lot of toys. And I would just say, "Oh, buddy, well, that's kind of yucky," because it is yucky. It's not safe, right? And the mom she was depressed. She didn't even notice that it was happening. So I wasn't being disrespectful. I was actually kind of teaching the child because the mom was just not. But that's life.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
our life, but that is life.
I've been in houses where the mice were their pets.
It's sad. But it is what it is. So that kind of leads me into, I'm gonna kick into boundaries a little bit, but what are your boundaries around that? Because for many of you, maybe all of you, you might leave a situation like that and feel like you were responsible, that you should do something.
I have something to share with that. I have a family one time that she was pregnant, she got a 2-year-old, and her husband was a come and go. Well, it was not a husband, it was a boyfriend. And so she managed to rent the house, and one day I went over there, and her sink, the dishes has like 2 layers of mold, and the house was upside down, the bedroom got pizza crumbs all over. And that's where I stop and think, should I call social service, or should I teach her how to maintain the house and that she's capable of doing it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. We
Mm-hmm.
finished with the visit and I said, you know what? I want to give you a hand. And she said, what? I said, let's pick up this place. So when your boyfriend comes, he'll see that you're capable to take care of your pregnancy, your baby, and your house. And she said, you're gonna do that? I say, yes. So I help her do dishes, I help her pick up, vacuum, clean, and she was amazed. She said, wow, and it didn't take longer. And I said, you can do that little by little, because your child, and look at him, he's excited. And you can make him help too. Give him a cloth, and I told him how to wipe the coffee table, the dining room table, and she couldn't believe that I did that. And then my next visit, she said, I told my boyfriend about And he was very surprised, she did that for you? And she said, yes, I was surprised too. But the next time I went, it didn't look that bad. And after that, I lost her because she couldn't pay the rent and so. But it was something that I said, if more people would do that, they would save so much less problem. Because I was thinking, if I call, she's gonna lose the baby, who knows what's gonna happen, she's gonna lose the baby she's expecting to, they're gonna, and probably the boyfriend will come after me with a gun. So I was thinking about all of that.
Well, if she can't maintain her household right now, how is she going to jump through the hoops that she needs to do to get her child back? That's a lot of work.
Mhm.
Well, that was neat. I did read the article, by the way. I did my homework. It's pretty impressive. But that was a really neat section of that article talking about, can't remember exactly how to phrase it, but basically praying through monotonous activity is how I paraphrased it. And they talked about just the meditation and peace of doing the dishes or folding the laundry and using that time as you time to connect, that even being able to teach somebody that I know it's a pain, but let that be your you time where you're getting inside your own head and,
So you're turning being a human doer into a human being.
yeah.
And sometimes, like Elena said, as a case manager, they're already in foster care. I'm not always bringing that. But we as a case manager has an obligation to make sure the kids are safe, you know. Either, you know, we, like for me, they're already in care, so what else can they do? Nothing else. But I think my thing is, nobody ever taught them to be, hey, it's okay to keep your house clean, because a lot of this young.
Or how to keep it clean.
Right.
You can't do what you don't know.
Right, and they're so young, you know, not 20, 28, they never had that parent, two-parent home, so they don't have the experience, so like, I don't clean anybody's house, but I'm just letting them know, hey, maybe next time I come, can you have this table clean, because it's too much stuff, and I'm worried that your baby or your kids will take something, like all the medication on the table, that's not necessary. That is very dangerous. No, I had to explain to her why it's dangerous, but she didn't think that was dangerous. She said, well, my parents had the medicine on the table, so that's learned behavior.
Yeah.
If your parents teach you, so they do the same. I said, well, now, kids are different now, and things are different, I think it's better if you put it on top of the cabinet so the kids can't reach it, because, you know, nowadays, kids go through everything, parent stuff, so I'm just worried that they swallow the whole bottle of pills, then we're gonna have another problem.
And that's what I'm hoping that this experience is gonna be, is that because it's focused on the child, we can, focus together on that child and be able to present that as, did you know, like, developmentally, what's going on, like, they can really do that when they're 2 years old. They can open that pill case or share something like, like a story of one day, it was really hard for me, but I was working with, my mom, and she, was having trouble understanding, where he was, and just taking everything that's going on in the environment and just using the child as that conversations piece, where it doesn't feel like you're attacking them. We're just talking.
Right.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I want to talk a little bit about emotional awareness. And I'm really referencing more about yourself. So if we, and I in my office, my current office, one of the things that I realized is that many people don't have much emotional awareness. And it could be because they're coming to see me, and it's not people who aren't coming to see me, right? Because they'll say, well, I went from 0 to 100 in a nanosecond, and I just blew. Okay, well, it doesn't have to be that automatic. There are stages between 0 and 100 that you could get to. So I talked a lot about, I call it like the thermometer. So there's, if your lap is a 0, the top of your head is a 10, and what is your energy level? And that could be your anxiety, it could be your anger level. I don't care, whatever it is, there's a number, and whatever your number is at that point, what are you feeling right now? And then we do some exercises, what are you feeling now? And the number is different usually. So I have them walk away with figuring out what their emotional awareness is for them. That's homework for themselves. But for you, I imagine when you knock on that door, you're standing on the porch, you pull in the driveway or the front of the house, your number is probably gonna elevate. Because mine did when I came in here, because it's the unknown, I haven't started yet, I'm not, and then once you knock on the door and you meet them, you walk through the threshold, maybe it goes down a little bit, because there's a little less unknown, like they let me in, they're here. And then the more you start talking, your number's probably gonna come down. Then emotional awareness helps you, if you're paying attention to what you function well at, and then try to function there or below, that helps you with your communication, it helps you be more respectful, it helps you with resolving conflict, because oftentimes conflict is about, I have a vision, I have a dream, I have a thought, and it's my way, versus, and they have their thought and dream and vision, right? So if you can manage your emotions, it's helpful. And then you can also share that with the family. I just want to show you this. I did this in my office with this young man. I love this young man. He's probably on the spectrum. He's 13 now, and he's about this tall. He's a huge kid. He's super bright. I have them with oftentimes. I cut it off because he's so tall, and I'm showing this. I don't even need to tell what this is. This is his gingerbread body. Okay. And I cut it off because related. And what I have the kids do, I traced around them, and then I have them give me every feeling word that they can think of, and then he wrote it down, but I give them the choice because sometimes they don't have good handwriting, so I write it down. So he said the ones he thought of were tired, sad, excited, angry, happy, scared, worried, hurt, embarrassed. Do you hear any happy ones here? Hungry, energetic, annoyed, frustrated, there is happy. So he didn't have very many positive feeling words. So then we talk about this, I'm saying this really fast, but I talk about basically we feel in our bodies from here to here. We don't have feelings in our hands and our arms and our feet. That's not where we have feelings. But a lot of times boys will say, I feel anger in my hands and my feet, and they'll draw like red because they punch or kick. That's not what you feel, that's where you let the feeling out. This kid was emotionally intelligent enough that he knew that everything was happening. Most of his stuff happened in his head, but that's because he does a lot of thinking. He's very cognitive because he's smart. But one of the things that I love, here it is. This Tyrannosaurus Rex, that's his frustration. He said he feels frustration, because I tell them the feeling word, pick a word, and then tell me a story the last time you felt that, because then the story gets them back into the feeling. And so he told me a word about, I don't remember the story honestly, about how what his frustration story was. And I said, what does it feel like to you? He goes, well, it's kind of like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, because they have short little arms that aren't very helpful, and they're huge, and they have to eat a lot of food, and they have this big head, and they can't use their arms to help them eat. I thought that was pretty cool for a little boy. And so then he drew, and they're supposed to pick a color, like, so what color would that feeling be like, and then will you draw that, and where on your body do you feel it? So this is his chest, but we already did a bunch of other, this is happy. That's the only color, basically, that's on this paper. So he drew his Tyrannosaurus Rex, it would have been on his, because there's a line, it's on his chest. And he drew it in black. But you see, everything was black and brown. This was, I don't know, 5 years ago. I brought it out a few months ago, because he's back in for a little bit. And I pulled it out and I showed it to him. He said, that's the darkest thing ever. It is. So it was cool that he could see that, wow, everything is dark. I don't know what this scribbling is. That's the blue, I don't know what that is. But everything it's messy. He talks about, he has this wheel in his head that when he gets nervous or anxious, there's just spinning and he can't get off the wheel. So anyway, think about that and working with your kids and your grandkids, and when you're working with these kids and then these parents. Because many people don't have that type of emotional awareness. Like, I'm a feeler, and so if I'm talking to somebody one-on-one and they're anxious, I know they're anxious because I get whatever's going on in them is happening inside of me. But if I'm not paying attention enough to know, is that theirs, is that mine, like what is that, where's it coming from, then I cannot be the best me, because then I'm responding out of an unknown feeling, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I had a family counselor once who gave a presentation and talked about him when he, I guess, discovered that when he left the family, he would check on his own feelings, like whatever I'm feeling now is what they're experiencing. He worked mostly with children, so it might be something to keep in mind to help us review where we've been, what's happened in that meeting, and how it's impacted us, is how the child is living, if it's joy or if it's fear,
Frustration,
frustration.
right? If you leave and you don't feel like you weren't sure that you were really heard, or if the children really feel like they're heard and valued. And when kids aren't heard and valued, they tend to be mischievous, because they want to be heard and valued, so they just ramp up the behaviors a little bit. And that's 2-year-olds, and that's 12-year-olds, and 22-year-olds, and 32-year-olds, and 52, you know, pretty much all of us will do that. What did I put here? A couple of these arrows. Emotional awareness leads to emotional regulation. So if you're not aware of what's going on, it's harder to then regulate for yourself what's going on, which leads to positive boundaries. So that if you can regulate if you know what's going on with you, and you can regulate what's going on with you, then you can create proper boundaries, like your no year and your yes year. Like your no year was probably completely opposite from what you normally did, or you wouldn't have had a year of it. And now you realize that you've changed that boundary. It's probably not a total yes year. It's probably somewhere between the total yes and the total no, right? You had to start regulating and figuring out what was good for you and what wasn't good for you.
You give what you don't have.
Pardon?
Can't give what you don't have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all that leads to good relationships. So if you're paying attention to how these families are impacting you, it'll help you to really bring back to them the next time stuff that they need, information that they need.
Would you ever reflect that back to the family? Like last time I was here, you know.
I'm like, ooh,
Terry.
Terry.
Oh, I
It was
don't
a
have
T.
name tag on
No,
it.
it was a T, but I couldn't think of which T. Thank you. No, when I'm one-on-one with somebody, even though I'm an introvert, so I totally relate to that. When I'm one-on-one with people, I just say it like, so I wonder if you're frustrated. Like I wonder.
She's ramping up the behaviors. You better watch.
You know, I'm wondering if you're frustrated with this activity, because maybe I bring an activity that's frustrating, it's not working out well. I am too, so what do you want to do about this? So I just kind of state what I see or feel or wonder, like I do a lot of I wonder, instead of, you look frustrated. Well, that's not very nice. I wonder if you're frustrated. So I do lots of I wonder, and then what could we do? So that I don't have to be completely responsible, and if I'm responsible, this is a therapy thing, if I'm responsible for how it all works out, then they don't have any ownership, and then they can't recreate it. Kind of like your kids, right? If you always tie their shoes and never give them the opportunity in that hard transition of learning, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, the funny thing, and if you don't ever let them try, then they're not gonna own it and do it. So, that's
They're more responsible for what they own.
Mhm.
Definitely, at all ages.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm trying to see if I remember this. I'll just skip this for a second. It's not that big a deal, you're not gonna miss anything. So, I do want to talk a little bit about memories. So we've been together for about an hour and a half. Every moment of that hour and a half has been a memory. And it's filed somewhere in your brain. Only the instances that you attached an emotion to, for whatever reason, whether you attached a personal story to something that was said, or connected to something that somebody else said, only the things that you attached an emotion to is really filed in an area of your brain that you can recall. Okay, so there's two separate areas of memory. I'm making this very simple, but it's the ones that we can recall and then the ones that we can't. So think back across your life. I'm 53 years old, so how many moments have I had? I can't even do that kind of math. But there are specific things I can tell you that happened when I was 3, because I know it happened at this house. We moved on my 4th birthday, so I know I was under 4. But I have like 2 memories of that, maybe 3 of that area. Partly because the more verbal, what is that word, help me? I'm an early childhood person. The more verbal we are, the more we can't talk about our memories that happened to us at 6 months old because we don't have words so attached to it. That's what I'm trying to say. But the older we get, we have a lot of words we can attach to anything, but if we don't put an emotion to it, we don't remember it. So if you don't leave your families with some kind of emotional connection, you're not gonna be as important to them as you would be otherwise. So that you gave that woman the feeling, the woman that you helped clean her house, she was valuable to you. She wasn't very, very valuable in her life. And that with her boyfriend, he didn't see her as valuable, because he would discard her off and on, right? So you made her feel valuable at her worst. That was a total gift. That even though you don't get to see her and see what happens with that, you gave her the gift and she took it with her. That's why she let you come back. That's why she talked about you to her boyfriend when he did come back. It was very powerful. So the emotions that we have can equate to the memories that we have, which then connects to the relationships that we have. It's all connected, which is why I think it's awesome that I got to do parents teachers and now I'm doing this. It's like, oh wow, it's all connected. Yes, exactly. So, and the more we leave them with a positive experience, the closer we're bringing them to God as well, right? They're not gonna want to be more connected to God if that's the message that we're bringing, if you're leaving them with something ugly, right? Who wants to be around that? And I think the man in the back of the room, Steve, with the machine said something about, he noticed that the world is talking ugly about Christians and Catholics right now. Well, we don't wanna be a part of that. So do you think, and so I'm going to the negative right now, so don't let that bring you down. But out of all the things that we said, that we have strengths we bring to the table, do you think that there was anything that was missing, that wasn't mentioned?
Humor.
I got that.
Nice. Humor. Anything else?
I think we talked about it before, about music. You know, everybody likes to talk. Maybe they'll be touched, you know, by the prayer shawl that we bring, the music that we bring. Like people maybe get that emotion from something else.
Nice.
Well, parents as teacher have that rhymes and songs.
Mhm.
And we
Yep.
sing, sometimes we sing it together and the kids love it.
Absolutely.
You have that, those pamphlets that have the CD in it for the parents, you better start listening to the music, so you
Yeah.
you know.
So you can know
to
them.
share any of those,
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. And the only reason I brought that up was, I think it's like, I know what my gifts and talents are. I also know most of what's missing. Like the things that I don't do well, like mechanical ability, I'm probably -100 or 0. I'm not